Hey everyone, it's Justine. I just wanted to run through my IZONI Thousand Eyed deck tech. I felt it would be really cool to go through the cards and my thought process behind the cards. So without further ado, let's get started. First up we have the commander, IZONI Thousand Eyed. She's a 2/3 for 2 double black, double green that has Undergrowth, which reads, when she enters the battlefield, I create a number of 1/1 black and green insect tokens for each creature card in my graveyard. So this deck's going to be very creature heavy, because the whole aim is to create a bunch of creatures with IZONI and then sacrifice them to her next ability, which is pay a green and a black, sacrifice another creature, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Which is a really efficient draw engine, and I'll get into that more throughout the deck tech. So now that you've seen the commander, let's go on to the lands. First up, I'm running hold on. I suck at this, apparently. 14 swamps and 16 forests. So a lot of basics, but in a 2-color deck you can get away with that. And then for non-basics, we have these 6 here. We have Warped Landscape, Desert of the Indomitable, Foul Orchard, Golgari Guildgate, Blighted Woodland, and Jungle Hollow. So some color fixing and some utility lands. Nothing special. In all, there's 37 lands there. 37 if I put 1 basic back in that I took out for a spell. But it's a really solid land base. It hasn't let me down yet. Now moving on to spells. We have, first up, Skin Render. Skin Render says, when it enters the battlefield, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature, effectively acting like a removal spell for indestructible creatures. But there's another special reason why Skin Render's in my build, and I'll get into that more later. Next up, Emperor Crocodile. When I control no other creatures, I have to sacrifice Emperor Crocodile. But it's a 4-mana 5/5. So the trade-off is very good for me. And also, I kind of want it to die in this deck. Sometimes I can just play it, have it hit the field, and go straight to the graveyard. And that counts as a creature in grave. So that's a very easy IZONI target. Then we have Kessig Recluse. It's a big spider with reach and death touch. Not much more to say about it. It's there to block flyers. Feral Prowler. Meow. I love kitties. Anyway, this cat dies and draws me a card. Next question. Moving on to Gravetiller Worm. One of my ways to close out the game with damage. Gravetiller Worm has Morbid, and it's from Dark Ascension, which reads, when it enters the battlefield, it gets 4 +1/+1 counters if a creature died this turn. So if I sacrifice something to IZONI's trigger, this comes out as an 8/8 trample for 6. Not very many things can deal with that. Then Moaning Wall. It's a 0/5 for 3 with Defender and Cycling. 9 times out of 10, I'm just cycling this to get it in my graveyard. It's another graveyard target. Again, it counts towards Undergrowth. And then we have Defiant Greatmaw. Noticing a theme yet? This is the second card that says put -1 counters on a thing. We'll get back to that. But what this one specifically says is when you put 1 or more -1 counters on Defiant Greatmaw, remove a -1 counter from another creature you control. The second ability is less relevant. It's the first one you have to pay attention to. Next up, Graven Abomination. The only artifact creature in this entire deck, and it's there because graveyard hate. Because I'm the only one who's allowed to have a graveyard, thank you. Every time it attacks, I exile a card from defending player's graveyard. It's a 3/1, so I'd have to be very careful, but its ability is really good. Next up, we got another big creature, Lotlith Giant. This card can end games. Like, It also has Undergrowth, same as my commander, but this one reads, when it enters the battlefield, I can deal a number of damage to target opponent based on the amount of creatures in my graveyard. So if I have, say, 20, they're taking 20. This can just ruin someone's day if they can't deal with it. If there's no answer, they can just lose to Lotleth Giant. It's a good card. It is 7 mana for a 6/5, but that ability more than makes up for it. Then we got Acolyte of Affliction. This is part of my engine. When it enters, I put the top 2 cards of my library into my graveyard, hoping to hit 2 creatures, obviously. And the second ability says I can return a permanent from my grave to my hand. So if I have something in my graveyard that's not supposed to be there, that I want in my hand, I can get it back. Then we have Devotee of Strength. It's a pump spell on a stick if you have a bunch of mana. It's 5 mana to give something +2/+2. And it's meant to be more of a late game mana sink. Also, I like the artwork. It just looks really cool. Sifter of Skulls. This makes me tokens when my non-token creatures die, so it effectively keeps replacing my board. Next question. Also, it's a 4/3 for 4. Yay. Then we have Boneyard Worm. This is a 2-mana Star creature. The Star meaning its power and toughness are equal to the number of creature cards in my graveyard. It effectively has Undergrowth. But its Undergrowth is basically pay 2 mana and get an 8/8. I love that. Anyway, ignore that. That was awful. Then we have Crocodile of the Crossing. When it enters, put a -1 counter on... Notice... Okay. This is the 3rd card that deals with -1 counters. Again, we'll get to that. But it also has haste, and it's a 5/4 for 4. So this is a really good card. It's just a really solid, aggressive crocodile with a lot of power. Then we have Wasteland Scorpion. Death Touch and Cycling. This card has 2 uses. I can cycle it to put it in my graveyard and draw a card, or if I really need to, I can hard cast it and deter attackers. This I don't feel so bad about casting. The Moaning Wall is more there for cycling, this is there for both. Then we have Deadly Recluse. It's a smaller version of the Kessig Recluse. It has the exact same keywords on it. Gerard Golgari Lichlord. The original concept commander for this deck until I switched to IZONI and built it around IZONI. Gerard is basically another sacrifice outlet, but instead of drawing you cards, he drains your opponents for a bunch of life. Ow. Also, he gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. Again, it's kind of a faux Undergrowth trigger. And you can also sacrifice a swamp and a forest and bring it back from your graveyard to your hand. So it constantly keeps coming back if you want it to, for a price. Just a really good value creature. Then we have Blight Soil Druid. The Mana Dork that can save your day. It's 2 mana for a 1/2 Black Elf Druid that reads, tap, pay 1 life, add green to your mana pool. If you're color screwed and you have 2 swamps and this in your hand, you're fine. This will give you your green mana. This is brilliant in a deck like this. In case I'm off one of my colors, I can just make up for it with something like Blight Soil Druid. Next we have Oasis Ritualist. It's a super dork. It's 4 mana for a 2/4 that has Exert and a regular ability. You can either tap it to add 1 mana to your mana pool of any color, or you can exert it so it doesn't untap next turn and add 2 of 1 color. So it's a dork that does two different dorky things and has a body and is a snake. And that's about it. Then you have Festering Mummy. I know, it doesn't look very threatening, but in this deck it does its job very well. It's a 1 mana 1/1 that says when it dies, put a -1 counter on target creature. So close. So close to tell you why those are there. Elvish Aberration. It's a 6 mana dork that has forest cycling, and you can tap it for 3 green. That's it. That's all it does. That's all it needs to do. Champion of Lamholds. With all the tokens that I make, Champion can get huge and make my entire army unblockable. She's one of my ways I have in this deck to close out games. Basically, when I go wide with the Champion on board, I can just be like, whoosh, and hopefully take someone out at the table. Then you have Den Protector. It's Eternal Witness for less mana, effectively. It's 2 mana to Megamorph it. Megamorph reads basically you can turn it face up for its Megamorph cost. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yada yada. And to morph it, you need to tap 3 generic mana to play it as a face-down creature. And when it's turned face up, you get any card you want back from your graveyard. So it's a good card in this deck because I just get something back that I might have milled earlier. It's basically Eternal Witness, but not as expensive price-wise. Plus I pulled that one, so I didn't even have to buy it. That was from a Dragons of Tarkir booster. Gatecreeper Vine. This creature is great. It's sack fodder, and when I play it, it either gets me a basic or my Guild Gate. So if I really need either of my colors, I can fetch my Guild Gate. If not, I can get a basic land. And it's an easy sack target. It's just a plant that grows on gates. It wants to give you land. You have Whisperwood Elemental. This thing can get pretty insane in this deck. At my end step, it takes the top card of my library and manifests it, which is basically effectively self-morph. Your library morphs itself. Anyway, moving on. Then you have Harrier Naga. It's a vanilla 3/3 placeholder that's going to be a Ramen Excavator. Next question. Glowspore Shaman. Mills me for 3 and gets a land back to the top of my library if I need it. Brambleweft Behemoth. Trample, 6/6, 6 mana, moving on. It's nothing special, it just has a keyword. And then we move into the non-creature spells. We have Corrupted Graphstone, Mana Rock, Ronus' Last Stand, Giant Token, Lethal Sting, -1 counter and it destroys a creature. Golgari Keyrune, Scarab Feast, exiles up to 3 creature cards and has cycling. Grizzly Salvage. It's another reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Choose one, put the rest of your graveyard card. Night's Whisper. Lose 2, draw 2. In a pinch it works, but I don't need it. Bramble Crush. Destroys a non-creature permanent, including a problematic land like Glacial Chasm or Maze of Ith. The only lands I'm okay with destroying are lands like that. Maze of Ith, Glacial Chasm, yada yada. Lands that could prevent me from getting in. Putrefy. Destroys an artifact or a creature and it can't be regenerated. And this is the original artwork from original Ravnica. Stinging Shot. Put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature with flying and cycle it for 2. Another one of those, oh hey, -1 counters cards. We're almost there. Abundant Growth. It fixes my colors for 1 green. and draws me a card when it enters. Moldervine Reclamation. Combined with IZONI, it doubles IZONI's trigger, so I get 2 cards and 2 life. Cultivate. It's a 3 mana, get 2 land spell, and put 1 into play and 1 in your hand. Beneath the Sands, more ramp. This is rampant growth for 3 mana with cycling. Literally, you get 1 land for 3 mana, or you can cycle it for 2 and draw a card. Sinister Concoction. Oh my god, this card's weird. It does like 3 things before it kills a creature. This is such a weird card, but I just had to run it because it's gimmicky, and I like gimmicky cards. Here we go. This is the card I was talking about. What? All the neg1 counters are in the deck. Nest of Scarabs. Every time I put a neg1 counter on something, I make a little beetle. For each neg1 counter, I make a beetle. So I make a lot of beetles in this deck, on top of IZONI's insect triggers. And there you go. That's my engine. Then you have Bow of Nylea. Gives all my attacking creatures Death Touch and does a bunch of things for 2 and tap it. I'm not going to go through all of them. By now, most people know what Bow of Nylea does. Torment of Venom. This is another one of those -1/-1 counters cards. Put 3 neg1 counters on target creature. Its controller loses 3 life unless they sacrifice another non-land permanent or discard a card. It stings a thing and I get 3 bugs. Now that... Then you have Gerard's Orders. It's tutor with an extra graveyard trigger attached. So I get to look for 2 creatures, put 1 in my hand and 1 in my grave. For 2 and Golgari. And you have Manalith. 3 mana, tap it for any color. It's a mana rock. It's a pretty decent mana rock at that. It doesn't come in tapped. It taps for whatever color you need. It's totally playable. Eyeblight's Ending. Destroys a non-elf creature. It basically reads, destroy target, not my commander. My commander's an elf shaman. Then you have Splendid Agony, another distribute 2 neg1 counters and make 2 beetles. Now I can say that because you've seen the card, so you know exactly what my engine is. Haze of Pollen. It's a combat trick that protects me from damage, or I can cycle it for 3. A little expensive to cycle, but hey, sometimes you need the card. And then we have Mind Rot. This lets me discard 2 cards. In essence, it should read drop 2 creatures into my graveyard from my hand, because that's what I use it for. And then we have Macabre Waltz. Sometimes you just want to get your big creatures back out of your graveyard. Macabre Waltz lets me get 2 of those creatures. And then last but not least, Benefaction of Ronus. This lets me mill 5 and pick an enchantment or a creature and add it to my hand. And then the rest go straight to my graveyard. Basically, the last piece of my engine. And there you have it. That's the deck in a nutshell. There's 90 cards there total. I don't have the rest of my sleeves. I don't know where they went. Once I buy a new pack of Dragon Shields, I'll do an updated deck tech. But overall, I've playtested this deck multiple times. It's very fun. Like, it does everything you want Golgari to do. It plays with its graveyard, it plays big horrifying creatures, it plays little token creatures. It sacrifices things, it draws you cards, it does all the fun stuff. Overall, oh yeah, and it has a good control package, as you've seen. Overall, this deck is really, really sweet. And I can't wait to play it at a Commander event once this pandemic is over. So yeah, that's been the deck. Hopefully I didn't stutter or stumble too much. I'm fairly awkward on camera, unfortunately, but I tried my best. I think I got through it. And yeah, that's my girl IZONI.